The light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis occur in a number of complicated steps that are devoted to harvesting light energy from the sun, converting that energy into biologically useful chemical energy, as well as reducing power while producing oxygen as a byproduct. The light reactions are carried out in the chloroplasts in 4 major protein complexes that are embedded in the thylakoid membranes. These complexes are known as photosystem II, the cytochrome B6F complex, photosystem I, and ATP synthase. The first complex at work in the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis is photosystem II. It consists of a reaction center complex surrounded by several light-harvesting complexes. Each light-harvesting complex contains various photosynthetic pigment molecules, including chlorophyll A and B, as well as light-absorbing compounds called carotenoids, all of which are bound to special proteins. Each time one photon of light strikes a chlorophyll molecule in a light-harvesting complex, its energy is absorbed, causing one of its electrons to become excited or energized. The energy is passed along until it reaches the reaction center complex, where it is transferred to a special pair of chlorophyll molecules. This energy causes each of them to eject an electron and then donate it to a primary electron acceptor molecule called pheophytin. The electrons from photosystem II are passed on to a mobile electron carrier molecule known as plastoquinone QB, which also picks up 2 protons from the stroma. The carrier transports the electrons to the cytochrome B6F complex and then releases the 2 protons into the lumen. And from there, the electrons are moved to a second mobile carrier molecule called plastocyanin, which carries them to photosystem I. Another important feature of the cytochrome complex is that it uses the energy of the electrons passing through it to pump hydrogen ions, that is, protons, from the stroma of the chloroplast across the thylakoid membrane into the lumen. The proton gradient that this creates produces an electrochemical force that will later be used by the ATP synthase complex to make ATP. At the same time the cytochrome complex is busy pumping protons and transporting electrons, water is being enzymatically split in a specialized part of photosystem II called the oxygen-evolving complex. The splitting of water results in the production of 2 hydrogen ions or protons, 2 electrons, and 1 oxygen atom. The electrons released by this process are used to replace the electrons that were donated by the pair of reaction center chlorophyll molecules. The hydrogen ions produced from water splitting enter the lumen, joining the other protons being pumped in from the cytochrome complex. And the oxygen atom, produced by the splitting, combines with another oxygen atom to create breathable diatomic oxygen, or O2, which ends up being released into the air. Oxygen is the first product of the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis. Returning now to photosystem I, we find that the de-energized electrons from the cytochrome B6F complex are delivered directly to the reaction center pair of chlorophyll molecules. Here, they receive an extra boost of light energy before being passed down another electron transport chain, which ends with a mobile transport molecule called ferredoxin. Ferredoxin carries the electrons to an enzyme called ferredoxin NADP reductase. The enzyme then adds the transferred electrons to NADP, which, along with the addition of the hydrogen ion, forms NADPH, which is the second product of the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis. NADPH will provide the reducing power used to form sugars in the light-independent reactions of photosynthesis that come later. In the final step of the light-dependent reactions, the ATP synthase complex utilizes the electrochemical force created by the unequal concentration of hydrogen ions on either side of the thylakoid membrane to make ATP from ADP and phosphate ions. 1 ATP is produced for each hydrogen ion that passes through the complex. ATP is the third vital product of the light-dependent reactions of photosynthesis, and will provide the chemical energy needed to make sugars in the light-independent reactions of photosynthesis that follow. So in summary, the light-dependent reactions are the first stage of photosynthesis. They are the complicated process by which plants, algae, and certain protists capture and store the energy from sunlight in the form of the energy-carrying molecules ATP and NADPH, while releasing oxygen into the air.